Hi, are you wondering if burying your kitchen scraps directly into your garden soil beds is worth your time? Does it measurably improve your soil? Let's get to the answer. It's yes. So let's get to the how-tos and the don't-dos of burying your kitchen scraps in the garden. I'll even throw in some ways that you can make this fit into your busy life discreetly and easily so that it becomes a part of your gardening routine, whether you're a novice or just curious. First up, the how-to. So what do you need for this process? That's easy, your scraps and a shovel. What can you compost? That's easy too, vegetable food scraps. Think coffee grounds, lettuce, potato and banana peels, avocado skins, and any disease-free yard waste like leaves or grass clippings. You'll also want to throw in paper products like newspaper and paper towels, even cardboard works. Alright, so here are the steps. First, you're going to dig a hole a minimum of 4 to 5 inches deep and as much as 10.5 inches deep. Go however wide and deep you need it to be, depending on the condition of your soil and what you'll be planting. Now in my backyard, I start hitting the sandy stuff at around 3 inches deep, so I'm going to dig another 2 to 3 inches beyond this for a total digging area of about 6 inches deep. What you need to give more consideration to is what you're going to be growing in that bed. For example, in my beds, I'm going to be growing things with shallow roots like leafy greens, so I don't need to dig as deep. But if you're going to be growing things that have deep and complicated root systems like root vegetables, definitely dig down as far as you can, again up to even 12 inches deep. Now go ahead and drop your food scraps and any other organic matter into the hole. Now along with your kitchen scraps, you'll also want to make sure that you're adding things like paper towels or newspaper clippings, which provide an abundant source of carbon, which will balance out the nitrogen-rich kitchen scraps that we're adding to our compost. After this, you're going to replace the soil and you are finished. Now I know you might be thinking, hold up, is that it? And the answer is yes. Simplicity is exactly the reason why you want to do this. But the question you probably have now is, so how does this stuff make compost? This is an excellent question. And the science behind compost is that it requires 4 ingredients: nitrogen, carbon, air, and water. And together, these feed microorganisms, which speeds up the process of decay from your kitchen scraps. And this is exactly what you want. Once the matter fully decays, it releases all that enzymatic goodness that interacts with the biodiversity of your soil, and over time, you structurally change the composition of your soil into a nutrient-dense landscape with items that you'd usually throw away. That's amazing. A successful garden starts with a foundation of incredible soil, and the rich inorganic matter that compost provides is key. The great thing about using compost is that it inoculates your soil with billions of microorganisms that help your plants remain healthy. In the same way we know that beneficial bacteria is good for human health, which is why we drink things like kombucha or eat fermented vegetables and yogurt because it helps with beneficial gut bacteria, it's really no different when it comes to your soil. So it's truly not a matter of whether to add nutrients or fertilizer, but how you're going to do it. Okay, so come close. I share this to my shame, but also because I love you. My first few years of gardening, my biggest ticket items weren't the pots or the seed packets or the starts. It was buying soil and then fertilizers, which is why kitchen scraps are the way to go. So now that we've covered the how-tos, let's go over the don't-dos, which are just as important. Think twice before adding citrus peels, onion, or garlic to your compost pile. As a gardening enthusiast and basement worm farmer, I can attest that most worms will avoid the areas that these are in. And you don't want to do this because earthworms are a vital part of making your compost. But if you have garden admirers like cats or raccoons, these ingredients are strong deterrents for them. Don't compost anything that contains meat, fat, oil, or grease, diseased plant material, sawdust or chips from pressure-treated wood, dog or cat feces, weeds that have gone to seed, or dairy products. If you do, things will start to smell bad, attract pests, and cause other problems that you just don't want in your garden. Also, don't plant in a kitchen scrap compost area for a minimum of 6 weeks. Now, I stick with 8 because you want to give your matter more than enough time to fully compost. But also know that growing crops will be fine with a small amount of compost between their rows. Alright, so we've done the how-tos and the don't-tos, but I also want to share some other logistics about how you can fit this into your everyday life. Be sure to assign something as your compost container, and for this you can go fancy or free. Are you wondering how or even where to store your scraps? I found it easiest to use gallon-sized freezer bags that I just rinse and reuse. Now, the benefit to this approach is that it doesn't take up my precious refrigerator space, and I'm not locked into the size of the container. Also, the act of allowing your frozen scraps to melt underground actually hydrates the soil. During the colder months, this will happen too, but don't think that fresh compost like this is any better or different than frozen compost, because there's not a difference. Now, I know that I showed unfrozen contents earlier because it was pretty, but really it kind of looks like this because realistically I'm only trying to go to my backyard and dig cold soil once a month or so. My third tip is from my good friend Nikki over on the channel Everyday Life of an OCD-ish Chick. Rather than going out every week and exerting energy digging your trench or hole, complete your digging in batches in advance so that all you have to do is dump and cover soil for weeks at a time. Genius. Now, you may also be wondering if container composting or this method is better, and I say, why choose? But really, the best option is to do both in combination. When you're not growing in the ground, why not bury your kitchen scraps to add nutrients directly to the soil? But when you are growing in containers or in the ground, use your container compost to add nutrient-rich soil to your containers all throughout your growing season. And yes, we are adding tons of nutrients to the soil, but honestly, you won't really know what's happening with your soil until you complete a soil test. And the best time to do this is during the fall or spring so that you know exactly what your soil needs. And here's where making your own compost really comes in handy, because instead of buying large bags of nutrient-rich soil, you're only buying specific ingredients that you can't source yourself, like lime. And with those savings, you can buy more starts. You're welcome. As a small space homestead dreamer, this technique is not only invaluable, but also financially practical. To get more tips to help you say yes to your farm dream in a small space and in your spare time, join me here weekly. I'll see you in my kitchen or garden soon.